Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy these little book recaps. I do these every month for you guys. That way you can get some inspiration, and I'll have that playlist linked in the description for you guys. But I'm doing something a little different and filming this at night. So I have some tea with me. Get yourself a drink, a snack, and just enjoy. I'm gonna break this video up into chapters so you can look at the timeline. That way, I'm gonna break it up into the three types of books I read this month. That way, it's easy for you to navigate through the video in case you're not into a certain genre or something like that. But nevertheless, let's get started. It's actually really nice. It feels cozy to chat at night with you guys, but this month of books was probably my favorite month of reading, and I can really say that with my whole heart. Most months I've been really enjoying maybe 50% or 75% of the books that I've been reading. But this month, every single one that I read was incredible. I am not gonna give spoilers to the books, but I do film on TikTok some spoilers, and I obviously highlight that so in case people see the TikToks, they know that ahead of time. But that way, sometimes I can let out my emotions towards the characters and really go in depth. But these videos I like to give as recommendations in summaries without giving away too many spoilers in case you end up reading any of these. So I'm gonna get started. I read 3 books this month from my local library. All these were actually on my wish list, and I didn't anticipate actually ending up finding these at the library and reading these, but the day that my partner Bree and I went, we actually vlogged it. So if you want to keep up with my vlogs, be subscribed to my channel. But I showed us going to the library, and that day, I don't know, it was raining and maybe something was in the air, but all the books that I was anticipating on trying to find were actually checked out. So I resorted to some of these that were on my list that I kind of had forgotten about, and thankfully enough, they all turned out to be some of my all-time favorite books. So let's get started. First is a book that's about the psychology of money. So it's a nonfiction book, and it's written by Morgan Housel. I would highly recommend this for anybody that's just interested in working on their relationship with money. I feel like I always say this, but as I get older, I think it's just a subject that is slightly taboo, and I really enjoy learning more about finances. But this is a really great book. It gives 2 sides of the coin towards every topic when it comes to finances, and I feel like that's really hard to come by when you read books on finances, because a lot of books in the finance world, at least that I've read, are like, do this, don't do this, invest in this, don't invest in that, be like this person, don't have habits like this. And I think, you know, it's relative, but then a lot of it I find isn't relative, especially because the economic system and the way of life is constantly changing. And this book was actually written just a couple years ago in 2000, I think it was published in 2020. Let me double check for you guys. Yeah, it was published in 2020 when everything was going on in the world, like the pandemic. So it's very relevant to times now, but I like the way that the author encompasses all of history when it comes to money. And my takeaway when I was talking about how like it's always 2 sides of the coin, by the way that the author really depicts finances, is that he gives you an overarching idea in philosophy, almost as like an open-ended idea, and then gives you historical background based off of both sides of that philosophy for the reader to kind of navigate it within yourself. So it made me have a lot of internal reflection, which I really love, and I felt like was something very unique in a book that's about finances. It was not mundane, it was very intriguing actually. A lot of the conversations around historical events like Facebook, the way that the medical industry has come up, and the way that we navigate. And I saved a lot of bookmarks in the book, and one of my favorite things that he says at the very last chapter, summarizing the book, is that money is like getting a medical treatment. It's so different for each person, and there's so much autonomy when it comes to money. And my background and where I came from and my life experiences are going to be different from every single person on the planet, and that in itself is a justified enough reason to make your own decisions with money. So like what Bill Gates did with his money in his life is not going to be the same as what I do, and it's not going to be the same as what someone that grew up during the Great Depression or is going to feel, or like children now that are born in the technology era. Like, it's okay for us all to have changing views, and I like that the author put to always remain with enough space in the world for change and for growth, and that space gives you opportunity, and I really enjoy that. There's space for us to always evolve financially and to be open enough to understand different views on finances. And he put it in a really good ways. Like, the 401k is only like 45 years old, and the Roth IRA didn't even become a thing until 1999, which is like really not that old. And so in perspective, in the grand scheme of things, all these things are still being studied, are still working themselves out. And I just felt like it gave me a very optimistic and introspective view. And it's also a very short read. It's about 250 pages. And it was very quick for me to read, and I highly, highly recommend this. It's probably my favorite financial advice book I have ever read. And I'm curious to see if there's any other books by the author, because I would love to check some of those out. So who knows, maybe at the library I'll find another book that will come along my path by Morgan. So that was a 5-star, and I loved it. Tea time break. This is so fun. It feels so comfy and cozy. I hope that you're having a really wonderful day. Maybe you're in bed watching this cozy, or you're on your lunch break lounging, but wherever you are, I hope that you're having a great day. The next book I read is a book by Colleen Hoover, the one and only. You guys know, if you've been watching these videos, I really decided to get into fiction a couple months ago because I felt like it would be really playful and enjoyable and entertaining for my brain, other than always reading books on educational topics, philosophical, spiritual. You know, sometimes I think it's really nice to soft, enjoyable reads. So fiction has been my jam lately, and I started with Colleen Hoover. I have been loving her writing. If you've read any of her books, I love how, you know this, but I love how she goes back and forth between timelines with the characters between each chapter. So one chapter will be one character at a certain timeline, and then another chapter will be another character at a different timeline, and then the timeline all seamlessly comes together by the end of the story, but it always makes for a really riveting, emotional read, because in the beginning it doesn't make sense. It's like, what's going on? You're so confused. You're kind of having emotional turmoil towards the characters, and it builds a lot of suspense and drive to get to the end of the book. And I love that, because you want to be entertained with fiction. You want to be able to be like, I need to read to the end. Like, that's what you want in a book. And her books do it for me every time. There hasn't been one that I haven't loved. And this was a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a romantic trope, what they would say. And it's basically a story of this guy that Miles, and he's basically in the present day very guarded, very emotionally unavailable, and you can't really understand why he has so many walls up. And the other character, Tate, she's new to the city, living with her brother, and she obviously thinks that Miles is attractive, and so it's kind of from her perspective having this love interest with Miles. And then the backstory of why Miles is so hardened to love kind of unfolds with this other character, Rachel, his sort of high school sweetheart. I'm not gonna give too much away, but I was like, my jaw was on the ground for the majority of the book. I could not believe the way that the story was unfolding, and there's so much drama. You don't even need reality TV if you're reading Colleen Hoover books. And I had a lot of anger towards the main character, Miles, but by the end, I had a very soft spot for him, and it was just a really great read. I loved it. It's also another kind of shorter read, and her books I just literally fly through because they're so good. I'm excited. I don't know, maybe if I go to the library, we're gonna go, today is Saturday, and tomorrow on Sunday, we're gonna return these books and go to the library. I'll be vlogging, so be subscribed so you don't miss. But I'll do a book haul of all the things, and maybe I'll find another Colleen Hoover book, who knows. I do have a lot of things on my wish list, but yeah, we shall see what's available. I love, love, love going to the local library. I always say this, but going to the local library is so wonderful because I can have copious amounts of books and learn so many different topics with the unlimited accessibility. And you know, it's just really nice. So, and there's something really peaceful about going to the library. The last, but not the least, my favorite book, Silent Patient by Alex. I don't even know how to say his last name. But you guys, this I think might be my favorite thriller book I have ever read. Okay, I really liked Verity, but this was incredible. It's my favorite book I've ever read this year so far, and I'm obsessed with this book. So like I said, it's a thriller, a psychological thriller. It's about this woman that's an artist, and she killed her husband. And there's a lot of mystery as to why she did it and how she did it. There's a therapist, and he wants to work with her. So he finds his way into this psychiatric facility that she's being kept at because she's claimed for being mad and, you know, all this stuff, as one would for murder. But he goes to work with her and tries to get her to open up, but she hasn't spoken since the death of her husband. And basically they're all the team of doctors and everybody's like, it's a lost cause, blah, 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 but he's working his way through. And then on the backstory, the timeline of his own personal journey is unfolding as well. And I loved that you couldn't tell who did it. Like, you couldn't tell why she did it. It was like there was inklings that in my brain, if you've read it, maybe you felt this way too. There was inklings in my brain that I was thinking, maybe that was like aligned or weird and not coincidental. But then the author does such a good job at the writing of this book that it's like there's so many layers, and it just compiles to this beautiful story that I literally was like rushing to the end one night. I was like, I think I probably had like this much of the book, maybe like less than a fourth to go of the book, and it was probably like 10 o'clock at night, and I had to stay up till midnight to finish it because I needed to know what happened, and it didn't disappoint. Like, this book, I'm telling you, if you're not a book person and you want to get into reading, read this book because it will make you a book person, I promise you, and you won't be disappointed. So I highly recommend. 5 out of 5. I've been trying to get a hold of this book for a really long time, and the library didn't have it for the longest time. And he has another book I saw at the library, so fingers crossed that his other book is there at the library. I believe it's also a thriller, and by the way that this author writes, I'm like hooked, I'm obsessed, just like Colleen Hoover. I have really come to enjoy with fiction, really falling in love with the way fiction is written, and finding what I really like as a reader is really, really fun. It's like when people fall in love with music artists, musicians, or movie directors, or movie series, TV shows. It's like been so fun for me to have something that I've created so much like passion and comfort around. So this book was incredible, and I can't wait to read more of his books. But you guys, those books this month were incredible, lights out. I'm excited to see what I can pick up for the month of August. Please, please, please leave me book recommendations in the comments. One of my friends on TikTok, who's also another book girly, she told me about The Fourth Wing, which I know is really popular right now, and I'm gonna see if my local library has it. So I think it's like a dystopian type of book, which I've never read dystopian other than, I don't know if you would consider Twilight that, but I have a couple books on my wish list. So like I said, don't forget to follow and subscribe for vlogs, because I'm going to be vlogging our day tomorrow, and we're headed to the library, and I'm so excited. I've been loving filming these books. It's held me accountable for reading, and I get so excited by the end of the month to share with you guys my feelings and my feedback. And if you guys have read these books, tell me what you thought of some of the characters in the plot line. I want a little book community on here. I want my book fam and my book friends to, you know, enjoy these books with me. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I look forward to all the books that I read in August. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being you. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.